So I think one of those challenging things is that for a device to get a medical device distinction or approval from the FDA, it is for that iteration. It is for that software version. You can't change a screw. You can't change a line of code without doing some amount of recertification. And so that means that your product velocity just drops to a halt.
Mm-hmm.
And so for us as a young startup, like that is kind of the opposite, where we need to do a lot of iteration. And the version of hardware and software that we launch with will not be the same that we're shipping, 2 months after that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's really important for us to be able to iterate in a space where we can figure out what works the best and then work our way up. So we published what we call the Throne Master Plan, very inspired by Elon Musk and his master plan for Tesla. And so we have a little diagram that talks about where we'd like to go. And so we have 2 quadrants, where one is contact and non-contact, so the measurements that we're making, and the other is health and wellness and a medical device. And so we're starting in the quadrant that is non-contact health and wellness device. From there, we'd like to move upwards to be a medical device that's also non-contact, and then from there transverse over into medical device contact. And so those are many years in the making, and right now we're just trying to make that first product that will give us the right to do the R&D for those next projects. But for now, we are not doing any contact measurements. We are not a medical device, but we definitely see that as a possibility. Like, I think one of the most exciting things to me is that this data set does not exist. No one has ever collected this data set in history. And are there interesting things that we're going to discover when we start making the correlations? Like, I would guarantee yes.
That's true.
And so I don't know, I'm very excited about the idea of giving human beings a better understanding of their body.
Once you get to the medical device stage, though, then you basically have little or no competition, no? Eventually.
Yeah, I mean, it's another form of a monopoly handed out by a government. Like, I think patents are one example of this. And a medical device designation can be, but usually for the first one to get a medical device distinction, it's much harder, right? You have to do a de novo application process. But then once there's a comparable, it's actually much easier for a second device to come along and get approval from the FDA, because they can sort of piggyback, because the FDA just wants to make sure that no one's going to get harmed. And I mean, I think a lot of people have a lot of negative things to say about the FDA, but as a citizen, like, I think this system, in general, I think it does keep people safe. And there are always downsides to things like this, but knowing that it is so difficult for someone to be a snake oil salesman for medical devices, I think really makes me a lot more comfortable.
Yeah,